Imagine standing at the edge of your dreams, feeling the fire in your chest, ready to take the next step. And then you hear it. The doubters, the critics, the voices that whisper, you can't, you won't, it's impossible. And here's the truth, they don't matter. Not really. The opinions of others, the judgments, the negativity, they are nothing but fuel for the power that already exists inside of you. Today, I want to remind you that the world will always have haters, naysayers, and people who will try to slow you down. And yet, here's the secret. Every single one of those voices is a signpost pointing you toward your breakthrough. Because every step you take in spite of them, every action you take when the world doubts you, that is where transformation is born. It's in those moments of resistance, in the face of criticism, that your strength, your clarity, and your unstoppable momentum are forged. So I ask you, what if, instead of letting their negativity weigh you down, you let it lift you higher? What if you chose to rise? Not just a little, but relentlessly, unapologetically, until the life you imagine is no longer a dream, but your reality? Tonight, we begin to uncover that power, that courage, and that unshakable drive that says, let them hate, I will rise anyway. Key point number 1 revolves around embracing criticism as fuel for growth rather than allowing it to become a barrier. And it begins with a fundamental shift in perspective. Most people instinctively recoil when they encounter criticism, feeling attacked or devalued, and they allow these external opinions to shape their self-image and limit their potential. But what if we saw criticism not as a personal judgment, but as a mirror reflecting areas of untapped opportunity, areas where growth is possible? The most successful individuals in history did not rise because they were shielded from criticism. They rose because they learned to use it as a compass, a tool that sharpened their focus and strengthened their resolve. Criticism, when interpreted correctly, becomes a signal that you are moving, that you are visible, that you are taking action in a world that often prefers comfort and conformity over courage and innovation. To embrace criticism effectively, one must first cultivate emotional resilience. It's about developing the capacity to separate the content of the critique from the intent or delivery, to extract the value without absorbing the negativity. Every critique, whether harsh or subtle, contains a nugget of truth if you are willing to look for it. It might reveal a blind spot, a habit, or a mindset limitation that, once addressed, can propel you to higher levels of performance and influence. Moreover, embracing criticism requires a proactive mindset. Rather than waiting for feedback to come in reactive bursts, you actively seek perspectives that challenge you, that make you uncomfortable, that test your assumptions. This willingness to confront discomfort head-on signals to your brain that growth is the objective, not validation, and it rewires your approach to setbacks and disapproval. Importantly, this approach transforms the energy of criticism itself. What could have been discouragement or defeat becomes motivation, a source of momentum. Each negative word becomes a challenge to rise higher, to prove your potential not to others but to yourself. It's the difference between being knocked down by adversity and using it as a springboard. Ultimately, the ability to embrace criticism as fuel is about ownership, owning your vision, owning your actions, and owning the results of your efforts without being derailed by external opinions. It's about standing firmly in your purpose while remaining flexible in your approach, learning constantly and letting every piece of feedback, however uncomfortable, serve as a stepping stone toward mastery and personal evolution. Key point number 2 is about acknowledging that not everyone will support your journey and learning to accept that reality without losing momentum. In any pursuit of significance, success, or personal transformation, there will always be people who doubt you, misunderstand you, or even actively try to hold you back. These individuals are not necessarily malicious. Often their skepticism stems from fear, limitation, or their inability to see beyond their own experiences. The key is understanding that seeking universal approval is a trap that drains energy and clouds judgment. The moment you place your worth in the hands of others, you surrender control over your own path. Instead, the most empowered approach is to accept that opposition, indifference, or criticism is inevitable and to focus relentlessly on your own vision. When you internalize this truth, a profound sense of freedom emerges. You no longer need to navigate the labyrinth of expectations and judgments, and instead you can direct your energy toward meaningful action. Support is valuable, but it is not a prerequisite for progress. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in history were achieved in the absence of widespread support, often in the face of intense skepticism. The difference lies in the ability to remain anchored in your purpose, to prioritize your mission over the opinions of others. Developing this mindset requires a conscious shift from seeking validation to cultivating self-trust. When you trust your judgment, your decisions, and your capacity to learn from mistakes, external resistance loses its power to derail you. Moreover, understanding that not everyone will support you allows you to refine your inner circle. It encourages you to surround yourself with those who elevate, challenge, and inspire you rather than those who drain energy or sow doubt. This selective focus does not mean ignoring criticism entirely. Rather, it means discerning which feedback is constructive and which is irrelevant noise. By doing so, you create an environment that nurtures growth and sustains momentum. Accepting the lack of universal support also builds resilience. Each encounter with doubt or opposition becomes an opportunity to reinforce your commitment, to practice patience, and to sharpen your strategy. It teaches persistence in the face of resistance and reinforces the principle that progress is determined not by the applause of others, but by the consistent pursuit of your vision. In this way, acknowledging and embracing the reality that not everyone will cheer you on transforms potential discouragement into a source of empowerment and reinforces the mindset necessary to rise, continue forward, and maintain unwavering focus on the path you have chosen. Key point number 3 emphasizes the importance of focusing on personal vision and momentum rather than seeking external validation. In life, it is easy to become consumed by what others think, by likes, approvals, accolades, or the constant measurement of one's worth against the standards of those around us. Yet, the reality is that external validation is fleeting, inconsistent, and often misaligned with our deepest purpose. The people around us may cheer us on one moment and doubt us the next, and tying our drive to their fluctuating opinions is a recipe for frustration and stagnation. True progress comes from cultivating a clear vision of what you want to achieve and committing fully to it, independent of outside judgment. Personal vision is not just about setting goals, it's about understanding the underlying why that fuels your ambition, the mission that compels you to rise every day despite obstacles. When your energy is anchored in this vision, it becomes resilient to distraction and immune to criticism. Momentum, then, is the natural outcome of this alignment. Once you commit to consistent action, progress begins to compound. Each step forward, no matter how small, builds confidence, sharpens skills, and reinforces the belief in your ability to create change. Momentum does not require approval. It feeds itself through persistence and dedication. This approach requires a mindset shift from external comparison to internal calibration. Instead of asking, do they see my worth, or do they approve of my path? The question becomes, am I moving in alignment with my purpose? By measuring progress against your own standards, you maintain clarity and maintain energy toward meaningful outcomes. Focusing on vision and momentum also fosters creativity and innovation because it liberates you from the need to conform. When you are not constrained by others' expectations, you are free to experiment, take calculated risks, and pursue unconventional solutions that others may overlook. Additionally, this focus instills a profound sense of personal responsibility. You become the driver of your own success, accountable to your vision, and empowered to navigate setbacks without waiting for external validation to dictate your next step. It's a mindset that transforms challenges into lessons, opposition into fuel, and criticism into insight, all while keeping your energy channeled toward forward movement. Ultimately, the ability to prioritize your own vision and maintain momentum over seeking approval or validation allows you to rise with clarity, purpose, and unstoppable drive, shaping a life defined by your values and goals rather than the shifting opinions of others. Key point number 4 focuses on transforming negativity into resilience and unstoppable energy. And it begins with a simple yet profound realization: adversity, criticism, and setbacks are inevitable parts of any meaningful journey, but they do not have to define you. Life will always present challenges, unexpected obstacles, harsh words, and circumstances beyond your control, but the power lies in how you respond to them. Those who rise above are not immune to negativity. They have learned to harness it, to channel it into fuel for growth, motivation, and action. The first step in this transformation is perception. When faced with negativity, it is easy to react with frustration, resentment, or self-doubt. However, by reframing these experiences, You can shift your focus from what is being done to you to what can be done with the energy they bring. Every negative comment, every obstacle, every setback carries the potential to strengthen your mindset and clarify your purpose if you allow it. This requires a conscious decision to take responsibility for your emotional response, refusing to give external circumstances the power to dictate your internal state. Resilience is built by cultivating a mindset that sees opportunity in challenge, lessons in failure, and growth in discomfort. Each encounter with negativity becomes a training ground for mental toughness, emotional control, and strategic thinking. Furthermore, transforming negativity into energy involves action. It is not enough to simply adopt a positive perspective. You must actively use the tension, frustration, or criticism as a catalyst to propel yourself forward. This might mean doubling down on your efforts, refining your approach, or committing to consistent progress, even when the world seems aligned against you. The more you practice this process, the more natural it becomes and the more resilient your energy grows. Over time, what once would have drained you now serves as a source of unstoppable momentum. This principle also extends to how you interact with others. When you embody resilience and channel negativity into constructive energy, you inspire those around you and create an environment that thrives on possibility rather than limitation. It transforms not only your own trajectory, but also the dynamics of the relationships, teams, and communities you engage with. By mastering this ability, setbacks are no longer deterrents, criticism no longer paralyzes, and obstacles become accelerators of progress. Negativity in this sense is not an enemy. It is raw energy waiting to be redirected toward purpose, growth, and unstoppable forward motion. Key point number 5 centers on inspiring the audience to rise above adversity with courage and determination. And it begins with recognizing that every person will face obstacles that test their resolve, challenge their vision, and threaten to derail their progress. Adversity is universal. It does not discriminate, and it often arrives unannounced, forcing us to confront our limitations, fears, and doubts. The defining factor, however, is not the presence of challenges, but how we respond to them. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite fear, to act even when uncertainty looms, and to embrace discomfort as part of the journey toward growth. Determination is the steadfast commitment to one's vision, the refusal to surrender when the path becomes steep or the resistance becomes intense. Rising above adversity requires a mindset that sees setbacks not as permanent defeats, but as temporary conditions to navigate and learn from. Each difficulty encountered is an opportunity to refine strategy, deepen resilience, and strengthen the character required to achieve lasting success. This mindset is cultivated through intentional practice by facing smaller challenges daily, by choosing to act rather than retreat, and by reframing failures as lessons rather than reflections of worth. The process of rising also involves ownership. Those who overcome adversity take full responsibility for their choices, their efforts, and their outcomes, refusing to blame circumstances or external forces for their situation. They recognize that while they cannot always control what happens to them, they can control how they respond. And in that control lies the power to shape the trajectory of their lives. Furthermore, inspiration is contagious. When individuals demonstrate courage and determination in the face of adversity, they not only empower themselves, but also encourage others to embrace their own challenges with confidence. It creates a ripple effect where resilience, persistence, and action become part of the culture of those around them. Rising above adversity also demands clarity of purpose. When a person's actions are aligned with a compelling vision, obstacles become meaningful tests rather than meaningless barriers. Each challenge conquered reinforces belief in the mission and fuels the internal drive to continue, even when external support is absent or criticism is loud. Finally, the combination of courage and determination cultivates momentum. As one rises repeatedly despite setbacks, each ascent becomes easier, more confident, and more powerful, creating an unstoppable force that carries through obstacles, resistance, and doubt, transforming the individual into a living example of persistence, strength, and unwavering commitment to their purpose.